Starbucks water. It must be super filtered.
If you want to grab Dr. Clothier.
And I think maybe.
Oh, we're live.
We are?
Good. That's all
Oh,
right.
we're live now?
Cheers. Grogu, good morning, sir. I bid you good morning, Grogu. Every morning there'll be a Grogu
Were we
morning.
live the whole time you were gone? Oh, I was like, oh. Hope I wasn't blowing my nose, which might happen this show.
Blowing the nose.
Oh my gosh, that wind has been so killer for allergies. I mean, it's been horrible for allergies.
Where am I going? Okay. If I can start sharing the window.
And let me know if Dr. Good's good. I mean, Dr. Clothier is good.
I am. I'm trying to find the camera.
Yay!
Well, there's Dr. Clothier. He found it.
I'm on. I just can't get the video going for some reason. Here we go. Maybe that's it. Hey.
Yay! And we're about to do
All
the
right.
show intro, and then we'll bring you in.
Okay. Very good.
Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
Hey, good Monday morning, and we've all survived
Happy
the weekend.
Monday.
Murphy's
Crazy.
Law Monday.
Well, you know what?
It was
It's
for me.
MLK Day. Oh, was it already Murphy's Law
Yeah,
Monday?
Murphy's
for you
Law
this
Monday
morning,
for me this
before
morning.
7:33 a.m.
Before 6 o'clock a.m.
Oh,
I woke up at 5:51,
yeah,
and I went, I can't go back to sleep
yeah.
because my mind started to work again.
What is that about?
don't
Usually it
know.
doesn't start to work until about 8 o'clock.
Well, it was on
which is
break.
problematic since the show starts at 7:30.
It's been on break for about 2 years, and then all of a sudden it started to work again this morning. I may be a medical phenom. I've got to talk to Dr. Clothier about it at some point privately.
No, you're not.
No. My medical opinion is no. Okay, so Dr.
Why,
Clothier,
thank you, Dr. Clothier.
I love
Appreciate
Dr.
that.
Oh, you're
Clothier's.
welcome.
I love
It's
his sense of
Reality Monday
humor.
here.
He is so funny. He's so funny. So I send him. I'm like, hey, thoughts on your show for tomorrow? You know, because we always like to get a heads up in case there's something we need to research. And he's like, nope. I'm like, and I look at the phone. I'm like, okay. Okay, I'm waiting for the LOL to come back because I know this is him being his dry, sarcastic self, which we love.
That's funny stuff. Well, big show today. We're going to tackle a lot of conversation points, but of course, the lead conversation point still remains today, COVID-19.
Yes.
And now the mutations that we're seeing all over the United States. What we thought was isolated and started off in the UK, we found, I think our first case was Colorado, and we'll ask Dr. Clothier that here in just a second.
And I'm anxious to hear what's real and what's not, because some people are like, no, there's no mutations at all. Some people are like, oh, yes, there are. There's multiple variations. And then some people are like, well, no, it's just out of America. Some people are like, no, yes, it is in America.
Well, supposedly
What's
this
the real
gentleman was the
deal
first case, and he was out
in
of
America?
Colorado, and he had not traveled outside the country. And so,
Which then that's scary.
well, yeah, very interesting. And then we've had several since then, of course. But then we're going to also be kicking around the idea that the Plano Medical Center is now putting tents in their lobby to be able to facilitate the overflow
Right.
of patients that are coming in and how that's impacting
And I'd
the
like
rest
to hear
of the country.
Dr. Clothier's thoughts on that as well. And you know, if he's read up on it. I'm anxious to hear about that because from what I've heard, it's worked well.
Well, we'll have to see. It's a
So
very
it's
interesting
all- yeah,
concept.
it
Now we're in the
really is.
lobbies. All right. So with that being said, good morning, Dr. Norm Clothier. And COVID-19 has become a mutant.
Good morning. Yes. And
Good morning.
better it than us, I suppose.
Amen.
Just thinking about that. But yeah, I want to put this in perspective. You know, I think that it's always an interesting thing to pick a piece of, like a sentence out of a story and make a big deal of it. Like, for instance, that there was a guy in Colorado and hadn't been anywhere else, never had seen another person ever. And, how could he have this mutation? And I think it always has to be put in perspective. So I just want to back up on COVID and mention coronaviruses. You know that COVID stands, of course, for coronavirus disease of 2019 is why it's called COVID-19. But there are a lot of other coronaviruses. If you remember the big moment last year where a bunch of people discovered that Lysol had on the back that it killed coronaviruses, and as some people said, everybody knew this was coming. It's not a new virus. Well, it's not a new virus. It's new to humans. And so that's why we call it a novel virus. A novel coronavirus is one that has not been in the human population where we've formed immunity. And so the coronavirus itself has been known for a long time. And in the realm of common colds, which is what it usually causes prior to COVID. And I do want to emphasize, I'm not trying to say COVID-19 is just a common cold, because it's not. It's obviously far more severe. But it is a coronavirus that often is the cause of common cold. There also are adenoviruses, rhinoviruses, several other, many other types. So when we look at the common cold, you've heard as often as I have, I'm sure, we've never found a cure for the common cold. And the reason for that is that viruses mutate. And so as with all viruses, we expect mutation. The reason there's not an HIV vaccine after 35 years of searching for that is that it mutates. And so the difference now is that with COVID-19, we're tracking types and subtypes. We're doing a ton of testing for 14 months in, not even quite 14 months, by the way, 13 months, 3 weeks of knowing the virus. And I think it's fascinating to me that we even know all these subtypes so far and that we have been able to genotype it this quickly. So when we look in perspective, any given year, there are viral mutations in the common cold family, but we don't sit around and talk about them. We don't have in the news, oh, there's another adenovirus found this week, a mutation. Because of the hundreds that are out there, they mutate. That's what viruses do. And so I'm not surprised at all that there are mutations. I think part of it is really twofold. One is we're testing. Our testing is getting more and more sophisticated, and more labs are looking at the subtypes in order to work on better treatment, better vaccine, trying to get a breakthrough. Everyone wants to be the one who finds the cure or the correction for coronavirus so that people don't get so sick and can overcome it more quickly. So one is we're spending a lot more sophisticated science on figuring out mutations. And the second is just plain and simply, the numbers are now high enough that we can see many different strains. It's a sample pool, if you will. So it'd almost be like saying, if you were brand new off of a deserted island and got to society and you saw a dog, you might think, oh, that's a dog. Every dog looks like that. Then as you walk down the street a little more, you start to see all kinds of varieties of dogs. And you realize they're all dogs, but they're quite, they have some differences. And that's kind of how I view the coronavirus conundrum right now, is that I think we're just beginning to figure out that there are a number of subtypes. But I also think there's no surprise that there are a number of subtypes.
Well, and so my question, and I'm fascinated with what you're talking about, because, and that's why Lysol, still to this day in the grocery store, it's rare that you can find a can of Lysol on the shelf, because I think people, a lot of times we're still stuck in the early mentality from what we thought when the coronavirus or COVID-19 was first recognized and they started talking about it. So
yes, there was all the talk of fomites or surface contact being the biggest.
And so everybody was Lysol and everything. Yeah, and I can't say that whenever I do see a can of Lysol or a generic Lysol, I grab it. I ended up finding one that always was put in the smell good spray section of the cleaning section of the grocery store, but it's actually an antibacterial air spray.
Yeah,
so that
did
was
you bribe somebody to put it there?
No, but it's funny. Okay. My hairdresser figured out the same thing, and we're both like, that's 99.9% disinfectant. Anyways, but
and obviously, it's still reasonable to use Lysol. I mean, we still want to have a clean environment.
Well,
right?
And there's nothing wrong like washing your hands. If it's smart and good best practices, and we practice it more often now because of COVID-19, so be it. Maybe we don't get the flu or the cold or strep or whatever as often. It blows my mind how quickly all of this has moved, and so you're saying this is because of advances in medical technology that we've been able to move this fast? Because I'm wondering if people were just kind of taking the slow road before, or do we really just? I mean, I guess you're the expert.
It's all about, it's really largely medical technology, I think, because, if you really think back, say, let's place ourselves 50 years in the past. If there's a bad virus, let's say it was something called polio, for instance.
Right.
And, back then you couldn't just use your laboratory machine to sort out the genotype of the virus and figure out how it's transmitted and figure out how to block it. It took a long time. In fact, it's actually sort of a medical miracle that the immunization for polio came out as quickly as it did. And I might point out too, that is a multi-dose vaccine. It has changed over time from an oral version to an injectable that's safer. And, it still is preventing polio in those who accept the vaccine. And, that's why also I'm not surprised that there's talk that there may be a future booster for the COVID vaccine, no matter what manufacturer is involved. And that, it may change a little bit. In 5 years, we may have a little bit of a different vaccine than what we have now. That's no surprise whatsoever. We went from a pertussis vaccine in the past for whooping cough to now an acellular pertussis because it doesn't have a component that was causing some people to have an allergic reaction. And, those things happen with time. What we're seeing, I believe now, is that time frame has sped up considerably, much like computing time, transmission time, connect on the phone. It used to take me longer to dial a rotary phone than it takes to push a button and have my phone do it for me.
Right.
It's just all that progress that I think has been very valuable. So at this point, I find no surprise to the fact that the variant viruses, the mutated ones, are popping up here and there, because I suspect they've been around and we're just starting to find out because we're doing more testing. And the other factor there to realize, back when we were talking about the formation of an immunization, a vaccine, is that you need to find a stable particle to make the vaccine work against, that your body can recognize the virus if it attacks you so that you can attack it. And it needs to be stable so that it's not mutating. And so what we found so far, it appears, is that with the two vaccines that are out on the market, they do seem to be still reliably effective against the variations because they did choose a stable way to form the immunization. And that's part of the immunization formation process, that you have to put into account the mutagenicity of the virus so that you can overcome the changes that are natural.
Right.
Keep in mind too, the virus spreads person to person by being in a person, using that person's cells to replicate, and then that person expels that virus. So with, so many variations of people, that's a large part of what leads to variations in virus.
So, Dr. Clothier, when you break down the vaccine, I know we're talking about the virus, but I only want to shift because there's been a lot of questions in the last 2 days. It's funny, I've had several conversations where I've said, my dad and I are going to go get the vaccine. We're trying to find where we can get in the quickest. We're on waiting lists in several places. And the comment coming back has been, oh, well, the vaccine will either give you COVID-19 and you'll die, or you might survive the vaccine, and then you still may not work.
Interesting. A lot of pessimistic people, don't you?
Careful, Dr. Clothier, you and I are friends.
Here's the reality. First, there's no death from the COVID vaccine, and there already have been somewhere around 18 million doses that have been distributed, and many of those given. There's some debate as to how many have actually been given, but we're talking about millions. I can tell you there are 380,000 dead Americans right now from the virus. And I think if you take 380,000 dead, maybe another, let's conservatively say 2 million debilitated by the virus because of blood clots or long-term hospitalization or long-term intubation. And you compare that, let's just put that number at 2 million even, devastated by the virus versus none by the immunization. I think it's a clear choice to pick the immunization. And as with all immunizations, and let me emphasize this, all modern immunizations, the idea is to give you a particle that will be recognized. They'll stimulate an antibody response in your body so that if you're exposed to the virus, it will recognize the virus and you will use your immune response to attack it. and kill it out more quickly so that it won't overwhelm you. And in fact, to the point where you may never know you have symptoms, or you may have a far milder case than you would have otherwise. There's nothing in the vaccine, the mRNA marker from COVID, that is manufactured to put in the vaccine so that you can recognize it from an antigen standpoint, antibody response standpoint, is not infectious. And so I would say put aside the fears. As I said a couple of weeks ago too, no medical scientist wants to be the one who's known as causing a catastrophic problem because of the work they did on research and development of the vaccine. And that research and development's been underway 20 plus years. It didn't pop up October 5th.
Right.
A lot of people kind of think the virus or the vaccine was just sort of made overnight. It was applied to this virus very quickly, but the research has been underway for years, for entire careers of medical scientists. And the other thing, no company wants to be known as the one that put out the vaccine that caused a catastrophe. No company wants to spend the rest of their remaining efforts on litigation. And, it's just, I think trying to be reasonable about it is the smartest thing anybody can do. And, when I hear even about talk like Bell's palsy, that hit the media about 3 weeks ago, I guess now, that there are cases of Bell's palsy. Well, they started looking at the numbers, and the cases of people with Bell's palsy with the vaccine, who have received the vaccine, versus the general population is actually lower. So, people get Bell's palsy, and it doesn't mean the virus has caused it. And in fact, in this case, it's very clear it did not, because the statistical numbers are actually lower than the general population. I had the vaccine, and I've been in a study a follow-up with the CDC where I get a daily text message to click into the site and report anything going on that I have. And I've had no symptoms whatsoever, nothing that I could feel like I got the vaccine. But when you report those things, you're supposed to report any new symptom that occurs. So let's say I, got a bad sinus infection starting today. I would need to say, well, I have sinus symptoms.
Right.
That doesn't mean the vaccine I received 5 weeks and 2 weeks ago was the cause. It's just a surveillance mechanism because it was an emergency approval by the FDA. So they're doing extra surveillance. So I would really encourage people, don't be scared by the idea of the vaccine, because I think you should be scared at the idea of getting the virus. It is very unpredictable. Some people fly through it and are fine. Some people, can brag that they only had symptoms for 24 hours. That's really nice for those. For those who have that light of a case, it's a delight for them, I'm sure. But there are a lot of people devastated, hospitalized, and as you were talking about earlier, hospitals are having to come up with creative ways to even house all the people because there are so many hospitalized. And I think it'll work out fine because medical care is medical care. It doesn't care that much what kind of walls around somebody.
Right.
But I was reading this morning that Los Angeles County has suspended their law about limitations on cremations from an air pollution standpoint. Who knew they had limits on cremation?
I was going to say, is that a thing, Dr. Clothier?
Apparently it is.
We've hit 100 this month. You can't be cremated.
What?
Good luck. You need to
my
travel to New
goodness.
Mexico for
the land of
cremation.
granola and taxes.
Wow.
And no offense to granola. Wow. Oh my gosh.
True,
Wow.
but so they've suspended the limits on cremation because there are so many people that have died. And I think I don't think you're going to see exit lines from vaccine centers giving the vaccine with a lot of death, bodies piling up. Unfortunately, and I don't mean to sound too callous about it, but I think you're going to see bodies piling up here and there. We've seen pictures of the mobile morgues and, here and there, and it's really an overwhelming issue if you really think about the numbers. Now, some people can still say, well, it's only, 0.4% of people die. Well, that's still a considerable number of people. And if that's your family member or friend or spouse,
you bet,
your child, it's
everything to you.
Hugely significant number.
Right.
And, so we're talking about 380,000 dead. I'm sure it's gone up over the weekend, of course. And then somewhere around 24.5 million, 25 million or so infected in the United States. So we're talking about somewhere around 8% infection rate and 0.4% death rate, total population. But you're also talking, about real lives, and already the life expectancy number in the United States has dropped by a year in the past year because of the virus.
That is significant. We have two questions for you, Dr. Clothier.
Okay.
One, how many vaccines are manufactured without mRNA? And then another question, how did our cousins get the first round and 2 days later feel extremely bad enough to go back to their doctor and be diagnosed positive? They are 65 and 63.
Ooh.
Okay, first, they had significant risk factors to pick up the virus already. And if the viral incubation time, which we believe to be about 5 days, somewhere around 3 to 7 is the range, 5 being the mean, then they almost certainly were exposed to the virus and were not yet symptomatic, so-called pre-symptomatic, when they got the vaccine, because the vaccine has nothing in it that would cause a positive based on the PCR testing or the rapid testing. So they must have picked up the virus, not only the immunization. So that, if they got the immunization on Monday and felt sick Wednesday, I would presume they were exposed to the virus Friday or Saturday and prior to that, and got the infection days later. The other factor to consider there is the infectious component of, you may carry the virus for a while and not ever show symptoms. So if there was one person around them who was shedding the virus and kept shedding it to them, even though they didn't feel like they had the infection because they had no symptoms, then it could overload a system of a 65 or 63-year-old. We've sort of arbitrarily said 65 and up is, for instance, in the group 1B for the vaccine, purely because of higher risk there. That's really not, there's not a proven physiologic change between 63 and 65.
Right.
So both of those individuals were at,
were at higher risk.
A relatively higher risk.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And, and I've seen, a lady who I respect tremendously, her kids went to school with my kids back in the day. She's a nurse, and she said, just got second vaccine, and she's proudly been posting about that on social media. And she's somebody who I respect tremendously. And I'm just, so it makes you think, while I've still got people who are like, oh gosh, Kathy, don't get it. That's a government tracking device. And then I look at my cell phone and think they've been with me for a long time then, or if you have Alexa, there you go. And I don't want to make light of that. I know people are concerned. And I think part of it comes from what I said earlier. I'm so, fascinated by the fact that we were able to ramp this up so quickly. Here it is, we haven't even been at a year since we had shelter in place or start wearing masks or businesses shutting down. And we've already got people having the second round of a vaccine. So I think that kind of leads to some of the paranoia. At least it does in a way for me. That's why I'm glad you talked about the medical technology involved. But, several people who I respect tremendously have posted, and these are people who are in the know like yourself. And I'm like, okay, if that person's willing to get it, are the rest of us who are like, don't ever get the vaccine, is this kind of like the anti-vaccination movement for kids? I don't know. I'm curious as to how this is going to play out in history.
Sure. And I think, ultimately in history, the vaccine will be proven to be in a changer of history, because I think lives will be beginning to be saved. I don't think it'll be 100% effective, because nothing is 100% medicine.
Right.
But I think it's a hugely significant change that other pandemics over history haven't had that opportunity. And one difference in ours, keep in mind, our society is so much more mobile and open than the society of 1918, 1919, when the virus kind of fizzled out because essentially everybody's susceptible to it died. And, now, I don't foresee this one fizzling out because we still have a lot of interchange of people because of travel and accessibility to people. And, it's very different than going out to your farm, carrying the virus there and having the whole family die, and then it's quiescent. That's a big difference. So the immunization, I think, is a very significant break there. I'd really encourage people. I know that something new is a scary thing,
Right.
I think that's part of the challenge we all have in medicine, if it's a relatively newer medicine or if it's even just a new diagnosis. If I diagnose somebody with diabetes and I had the numbers right there to prove it, half the time people are telling me, oh, these are wrong. This isn't, it's not true.
Right.
I think, well, you got to get your mentality adjusted to what the reality is. And that is indeed the case. So,
with numbers with blood pressure can be the same thing, Dr. Clothier. I always, and whenever I go into, the doctor's office, I'll mention, obviously they know I have high blood pressure, but I'm like, just know, it's probably going to be higher. And so then what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot of it before I go to the doctor, on my home machine, just to say, hey, I'm not, I do get nervous when I go into the doctor's office because it's like a pop quiz. I know I'm going to have this, but
we're here to scare you.
But no, doctors like to be scary. Well, but it's one of those things. The reality is, when I started taking my blood pressure on a regular basis, and when I look at it, especially when I'm taking, inhaling steroids or taking oral steroids or some kind of asthma medication, that stark reality of numbers and of statistics and facts, you can't get away from it. You can't escape it.
It would do you no good to ignore that.
Right.
So I would suggest, I think it's fascinating that there are so many people who know more about medical science and immunization and mRNA. I would wonder how many people knew what messenger RNA was more than 6 weeks ago. But yet there are a lot of experts out there who have decided that it's a problem and it alters DNA and whatever.
Right.
And that's not true. It doesn't. It's just one of those things. People have to realize their own limitations of scientific knowledge. And I'd say, trust the experts. And frankly, the experts in medical science are not political. They're not choosing, the virus hasn't chosen only America because it was election year last year. It's worldwide. And, I think we've just got to get real about the issue that this is a very real, mean, and significant virus. And whatever we can do to help prevent it or help have a better response to it, I think is very favorable. When I realize the medical scientists who dedicate their lives to this, to finding these solutions, are really committed. I can tell you, I don't think any of them even have time to spend thinking about politics and, what, tracking through the government. They could care less. They don't. There's nothing in the virus. You could take apart any given vaccine. You will find nothing that is a tracker. It's just, that's just a challenging mentality of something new, and probably heated up by the political environment, and the scientists involved in the research are not heated up by the political environment.
Well, and again, I think you can look and start to look around and see friends and family that have taken the vaccine, and like what I've noticed, and in this lady in particular, she's of the same political belief system that I am. She's on the same side of the aisle on every single issue I am. So I think there's, I at some point, the fear and the emotional part of it, and the fact that the COVID-19 and the shutdown has crippled us as a country financially. I think that's a big deal, but you can't let that interfere with your decision to protect your health.
Sure.
I think this emotionally, let's look at mental health. Let's look at drug abuse. Let's look at alcohol abuse, spousal abuse. All of those things have increased.
I think the longer the virus has a chance to be the winner, the harder it is on everyone.
Good point.
Our best current fight against the virus is the vaccine.
Yep.
And to answer the earlier question, both of the vaccines on the market right now are mRNA oriented, and that is to stimulate your own antibodies against the messenger RNA of the COVID virus. And so it's not the COVID virus being injected. It's not a tracker. It's to help your body recognize if that stable particle from COVID were to enter your body. So the current two are mRNA. The pending ones have not yet disclosed all their information because they are proprietary and they are not yet on the market approved. I thought one would be approved last week. I think it probably will be approved next week or two. And there'll be a third option, which would be even better to help fight the virus and restore. If your primary goal is to restore the economy, the best thing to do is reduce the virus.
Right.
If your primary goal is to reduce the stress of the virus, the best thing to do is to prevent the virus. Yeah. And, all those things are true. And I'd encourage people, be realistic about the vaccine. It's not, there aren't 330 million doses out there. They're being brought door to door to you. You will need to sign up somewhere, figure out a way. We still don't have it at our office, though we've signed up. We're waiting like everyone else in terms of having it available to give to people. At some point, that time will come. And if you've signed up in a few locations, as all those go down, because people will be getting their vaccine somewhere, and then they'll drop off that list, it'll speed up that process for everybody. And that would be the best thing for us.
Well, Dr. Clothier, I cannot thank you
Great
enough.
Info as always.
A few other questions, but I know it is after 8 o'clock, and you've got patients.
Go ahead
to
quickly.
See.
I'll try.
All right. Does zinc cause blood pressure to go up?
Oh, good question.
No, unless you have a zinc toxicity. Avoid the issue of thinking more is better. 100 milligrams has been shown to have some antiviral properties, but it is not a primary cause of hypertension. But if you way overdose on almost anything, you can start to mess up other systems of the body.
Good point.
That was the big one, because everybody's now talking about, of course, like you have, eat healthy, exercise,
and you beef
take
up
a good
your
vitamin
immune
regimen.
Exactly.
And so that's what a lot of folks are talking about this morning on the feed, and that was one of the big questions. So cannot thank you enough for all that you do.
One more, and then I better go.
Well, that was the big one.
There was like multiple versions of that one.
Well, but the other one became
got the big one out of the way.
The other one was about the politics, and really, isn't it more that the scientists are the apoliticians, but then the producers are really the politicians in the group?
Well, that wouldn't matter to me, honestly. If the science is significant and proper and has been done thoroughly for 20 plus years, and we have a way to combat the virus, frankly, I don't really care how they want to market themselves as a company distributing it, or, if they want to, one up the competition and claim theirs is 1% better or whatever. I think if it saves lives, I'd go with the science first. And, I don't think that you should fear a vaccine because there's a truck with a name on it that's delivering it to the vaccine center where it's being given to you. I think just, being realistic about what's there in it and the incredible science behind that, and the fact that you may literally not only save your own life, but the lives of, say, let's put it at 5 or 10 family members per person who prevents the disease. If you can keep them out of the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks or keep them from being dead, I think that's a pretty valid thing to do.
And then, of course, Randy Smith says Norm needs to go on national TV.
Yeah, you know what? You would be great. Why aren't you on all these news channels?
I wonder. I don't think I have a TV face. Yeah. But, no, I'm just kidding. I'm happy to get some word out somewhere that's, I hope, helpful to people.
Well, we really appreciate this. Is always educational, and thank you so much. We had Dr. Good had a couple of topics that she wanted to see you bring up, and she's very big into being proactive about your physical health. So we might shoot those over and see if we can kick those around next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Clothier. We appreciate you.
Randy. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. There you go.
Have a blessed week.
Have a blessed week, Dr. Clothier. And Dr. Clothier touched on the hospitals being overloaded and Plano Hospital putting tents in the lobbies.
Right.
Medicine doesn't care. We don't care where the walls are. Think about this. I mean, if you remember.
Tents in Central Park when COVID first hit.
Let's go Hollywood. MASH.
Yeah.
4077.
There you go.
They're a field hospital.
Yeah.
So, you put it up wherever you can and start helping people medically. It doesn't matter where it's at. It's just interesting that we've gotten to that point. And what has caused that point? Well, Plano has gone from handling 40 COVID patients a day and now they're handling 100 COVID patients a day.
That's a big, and I
That's
think,
just at Plano Medical Center.
And I think we're still seeing, from people getting together over the holidays, not just with family, but with close friends as well. Again, I think you pick and choose. You need to be smart about it. I think we can make our own decisions versus the government telling us what to do and what not to do. So open it all up. Let people make their decisions. If you're a private business and you require a mask, okay. I mean, I'm going to go in when, heck, I'm going Wednesday to get my dark roots that don't grow out blonde anymore. I don't get that. Oh, please. They never grew out blonde. I'm getting my hair done Wednesday, and at the salon I go to, they're very strict about it. So make your decisions, be smart. We've had one of our hosts of one of our shows on the network had gotten sick, had COVID, then it went into bronchitis and was like, hey, you know what? I'm staying away from everybody.
Yep.
I'm self-quarantine, even though I'm no longer COVID positive. I'm going to be smart about this.
When you had a potential exposure.
Oh, back in the
quarantined.
summer. I mean, for 3 weeks, now, first of all, I was sick. It turned out to be some kind of a stomach virus or stomach flu, because I did test negative ultimately. But you know what? I mean, my thoughts are I'm not going to go and accidentally give it to you because we're in close proximity on a regular basis. And then you turn around and give it to your dad, who's got a number of health issues. I'd be mortified if I knew that I was the person that led your dad to getting it and then he's in the hospital all of a sudden.
Right.
So I think you just need to be respectful of the people around you. And is it fun to shelter in place and self-quarantine? Oh my goodness, no. Now some people, my husband's like, I'll do it, because he'd just go and hunker down and read 19 books. For somebody like me, it's like you're, putting handcuffs on me and, putting a leash on me. But when you think about the people who you care about, who you come in contact with on a regular basis, and especially your family and your loved ones, I think we're able to make the right decision on our own.
Well, we're going to have to be. You're going to have to. We can't make this a.
Well, no, I don't want the government to tell us, though. I think we need to be smart.
That's where I was going.
Oh, what were you saying, John? What were your thoughts about that?
Did you steroid up this morning?
No, it's surprising I didn't.
Jeez.
Asthma inhaler puffed twice, but no steroids this
you're
morning.
killing me this morning.
No, man. No, this is a fascinating subject still.
I understand, but there's two of us here.
And John, take it away.
Thanks. So, with that being said, the idea is that we're not in a government that is going to be able to. We're too big. If we were on the island of the Philippines, it might be different, but we're not. I mean, we are a large landmass governed by many, from many backgrounds, with several layers that protect us from each layer.
Thank goodness now.
But we have to be responsible. That's how we've always been. That's how the forefathers set up our Constitution, is to be responsible. Well, I'll tell you who else is being responsible. The Kansas City Chiefs not pushing Pat Mahomes back into the game after a potential concussion.
I knew. I saw Michelle's cute little post. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. But Chad Henne, now how about that? That name comes back around here in the Dallas area.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
11-year veteran. He's, of course, came out of Miami.
I got to meet him not too long ago.
Did you? Yeah,
great
super
guy.
Nice guy.
Oh, great guy.
He takes the field, throws an interception after putting together a little pass to get him into field goal range.
Yep.
But was able to do a great job in keeping the Kansas City Chiefs in the game. Big statistic, I think, across the board is going to be Baker Mayfield, the Cleveland Browns their quarterback. He was 23 for 37 for 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Very pedestrian day. By the time Pat Mahomes went out of the game, he had already amassed 2 touchdowns and well over 200 yards. And so Mahomes was probably on his way to a 300-yard game and probably 4 touchdowns against the Browns before he went out. I think the big news on a positive note for the Cleveland Browns would be Nick Chubb. Yeah, he had 13 carries on 69 yards for a 5.3 yard average. And so he had a pretty decent game when they would give him the ball and let him take off. Big running back or big wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, this day. Of course, Rashard Higgins, he had 5 catches, 88 yards, no touchdowns, but had a good game as well. But so interesting football game. I did watch the playoffs, and I did watch the Browns play. I got to be honest, Michelle, there was a little part of me pushing for the Cleveland Browns.
For the underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to when Eric Metcalf, my boy out of Texas, was running back punts for touchdowns and kickoff returns, and when Bernie Kosar was there and Brian Sipe, and so I go back to the old Browns, and so I had a little bit of heart for them. But now glad to see the Chiefs going on. The Chiefs again. Patrick Mahomes was 21 of 30 for 255 yards, and then Chad Henne went 6 for 8, 66 yards and an interception. On the ground, getting it done was Darrell Williams. He had 13 carries, 78 yards for a 6 yards per carry average. Only touchdown on the game from the game on the ground, Patrick Mahomes, 3 for 14 on the ground for 4.7 yards on an average and a touchdown. So the Chiefs get it done. Will they get it done against the Packers? I'm going to say no. I say that whether Mahomes comes back or not.
Wow.
No, not Tampa Bay.
Oh,
the Packers.
Oh, you're talking about the Packers. Oh, sorry.
That's their next game.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought you said Tampa Bay.
No. And so they will face off against the Green Bay Packers now in the NFC Championship game, and I just don't see it. I don't see where the Chiefs have enough defense or enough firepower to be able to take. Well, I take that back. This is a Super Bowl I'm heading towards because KC's in the AFC. I do think it's going to be the Packers in the Super Bowl, and I do think it'll be the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and it won't be enough. So we'll have to see. Well, that's why they play the divisional games.
So you think it's going to be the Chiefs
and the Packers in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I'd misstated.
Okay.
Because that's what I was talking about.
Gotcha.
Because the new thing that's come out, Aaron Rodgers versus Mahomes, and neither one of them are yet in the Super Bowl. So, but I think that's what's going to end up happening as well. The Chiefs face off against the Bills. The Bills took on the Ravens. Ravens had a complete lackluster offensive showing. Just didn't really do much out there, and the Buffalo Bills did enough to win the football game. Lamar Jackson, nowhere near what he had going on last year. He was 14 for 24, 162 yards and an interception. Tyler Huntley came in for 6 passes on 13 attempts with 60 yards, and nobody on the ground did much either. In fact, the Bills' defense held the Ravens' offense very, very quiet. The Bills blew up in the third quarter with 2 touchdowns that would carry them to the victory 17-3. The Bills don't have enough in the tank. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to embarrass them. I'm calling for a big score.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think it's going to happen. All right, now heading over to the other side, let's go to the NFC. Big game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. And Tom Brady, and this is how I kind of reference Tom Brady now. Tom Brady did enough to win the football game and not lose it, and allowed his team to do what they do.
Okay.
And so Tom Brady did it the Trent Dilfer way.
Okay.
When Dilfer
what do you mean by that?
Well, Dilfer wasn't a great quarterback, but he could manage a team well and stay out of the way and allow his teammates to do their job. And as a result, Dilfer won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. And so Tom Brady very much handled this in a Trent Dilfer kind of way. He stayed out of the way. He wasn't trying to be the center of attention and let his team do his part. Brady went 18 for 33 for 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, he didn't throw an interception. He didn't try to force anything. On the ground, they had a couple of people that got it done. Fournette had it done at 17 carries on 63 yards. And then Ronald Jones, 13 carries, 62 yards. And that's where they really got it done, is they got it done on the ground. And then Brady was able to do enough to create a victory. Again, Drew Brees discussing retirement again. I just don't think New Orleans has enough punch to get to that next level right now.
Are all these games next Saturday and Sunday?
I'll look up the schedule here in just a second. So, I mean, what's your take, man? You saw my text to you. Wow, Brady does it again.
You know, you got to hand it to him. Complete respect. Even though back in the day, I think I was never a fan of his. I was always respectful of him and had tremendous respect for his talent, but I'm not a Bills fan, so that still kind of follows me. Good for him. Good for him. He's showing that clean living and taking care of yourself and, mind over matter, staying on top of your game. You know, I mean, let's just face it. He's an older quarterback by NFL standards. Good for him.
So did the
Can
Patriots?
Can you imagine the Buccaneers fans? Like, they just must be on
Lost their
cloud.
mind.
No, I would love to know. This is what I would love to know. How many Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers shirts have been sold?
Oh, jerseys. A
bajillion.
They were being sold before he got there. I mean,
Exactly. Well, you and I talked about grabbing one just because everybody, everybody was going to have one.
So did the Patriots miss out by sending him on his way? I mean, they didn't even make the playoffs, the Patriots.
I don't know. I'm sure
But the Buccaneers
I'm
did.
sure they're scratching their heads right now.
I'm sure they are. Just to give you a quick update, Drew Brees went 19 for 34, 134 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Yeah, not way good. Alvin Kamara did a great job on the ground, 18 carries, 85 yards for a 4.7 yard per average carry. Overall, though, just overpowered. The Saints didn't have it. And Tom Brady knows how to manage a game. That's what a leader does.
He does. And he's one of those that he knows how to lead under the pressure of the big games. Hence the reason he has won so many Super Bowls. Hence the reason why he will go down as literally one of the greatest of all times. I mean, he really will. You know, NFL history will show that. Just amazing. Just amazing.
So Tampa Bay will travel to Green Bay. It's going to be cold. It is not going to be warm. Good luck with that.
So do you think that's going to be, obviously that's an advantage for the
Green
Packers.
Bay. Yeah.
It is, and that's mean cold. That's mean wind whipping cold weather.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
And of course, here's the sentimental side of it, right? If the Bucks win, then they end up in the Super Bowl.
Did Gail say he's a robot? Are you talking? Is Gail talking about Tom Brady?
It could be.
He's AI.
He
He's
is.
like the little Mothman pet that we were talking about on Friday.
That's funny. Yeah, let's not pet him. Bucks 1 win away from Super Bowl, and the reason why it's sentimental is a Super Bowl this year is in Tampa Bay. And so it could almost be like a home game for the Buccaneers, but they are nowhere near ready for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. There's the odds-on favorites right now are saying that the Packers will win, but it's just going to be very slightly.
So it's going to be a good game.
No,
what they're saying.
No.
You don't think?
Aaron Rodgers isn't Drew Brees. Aaron Rodgers is going to smoke you.
There you go.
Your secondary doesn't have a chance.
Well, he's good. I mean, he's good.
Good luck. Secondary doesn't have a chance. Sorry, bud. Green Bay Packers win that game 31-17.
Wow.
Not even close.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And the Bills and the Chiefs, again, another one of these games, 38-14. Not even going to be close.
Yeah, okay.
But then when the Chiefs hit the Packers, you're done.
Then it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, your Packers are Super Bowl champs this year.
Interesting.
Yep. I'm just letting you know. Put the rest of it away.
Spoken from a cheesehead.
Well, that's where my niece lives anyway.
There you go.
That's where my niece lives. All right. So if you get a chance, catch that. Games are going to go off Sunday.
Okay.
No Saturday games.
Just okay.
The first game will go off at 2:05 p.m. That'll be the Buccaneers and the Packers, and then the Bills will go off at 5:40 p.m. in Kansas City. The Bills got a better draw on that because they're not going to be in Buffalo playing in crazy winter temperatures, while the Buccaneers drew the bad straw and they end up in Green Bay. All I can hope for is another ice bowl. I love it when it's super cold. I think it's cool, especially when you've got people from Tampa Bay. Now, of course, Brady's used to playing in New England, so good luck with that. But so very, very interesting. We'll have to watch and see. I will watch the games again this weekend and see how things go. But yeah, lots and lots of fun. Of course, Nathan's like, I'm going to be disappointed in my projections. Nathan, I don't think so. I think Green Bay takes it all the way. And let's see, Fred says, and Brady would not have survived playing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He's a whiny baby when he even gets touched.
Oh, interesting.
Let's see, Verdugo.
Yeah, it was a lot rougher. I was watching some 70s Cowboys football the other night, and that was a tough, hard-hitting game. I mean, that was just, and it just seemed to me like they didn't have, the padding was different. Everything was different as far as what your protection was. And parts of your body were exposed that are no longer exposed on these guys. That was some real football. And those guys were getting next to nothing.
And they were bleeding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I know several NFL players that are friends of mine that can barely walk.
Yeah.
From that
exactly.
era.
Oh, exactly.
And I'm talking about playing for the Oakland Raiders even.
Yep.
And those guys were way tough. Eric Verdugo, I'll take the points if you're giving that many. These guys are funny. That's right. You'll be coming back to the trough of JP here when the games are over.
Let's get a let's get a whatchamacallit,
A
wager going on.
Yeah, that's what they want.
Okay.
But they want the points, though, see. Yeah.
Y'all got to figure something out off after
Let's
the show
see.
offline.
Possibly, but these aren't going to be blowouts. Your spread is off. Nah, I don't think so. I think Tampa Bay gets overwhelmed. I'm just saying. We'll see what happens. That's what we play the games for. Yeah, and Buffalo's going to be starstruck when they see Pat Mahomes take the field. So the Bills aren't even going to play defense. They're just going to watch. They're going to want an autograph from Mahomes before he leaves the field. That's what's going to happen. Anyways, it's fun to watch, and that's what we get to do, especially with college football over with now, and then hopefully we'll get to bring in college baseball. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to get Jana Hauser on with us here in the next couple of weeks from the Kansas City Royals, and talk with her and see what she thinks and what college baseball may be holding, and may even get Coach Quigley to come on and talk a little college baseball and College Baseball Hall of Fame.
We would love that. He could zoom in.
He could zoom in.
Yeah, he could zoom in. That'd be a blast. We can zoom you, Coach
We could have him
Quigley.
sit on the beach, and we can zoom in and be jealous of him being on the beach.
Yes, enjoying his retirement.
Well, I'll tell you who else is on the beach, and this
Who
is
is
where
that?
this goes way bad. Yeah, this goes way bad. Our buddy Joe Biden. Homeboy's on the beach.
We were having such a nice day.
So check this
such a
out.
nice morning.
Check this out. I love this. Donald Trump takes a massive hit for all the executive orders he issued as soon as Barack Obama left office, which, by the way, is fairly normal for new presidents to come in and do.
It really is. I mean, historically, that's something that people you can gripe, and usually the party that their candidate didn't win, you gripe about it and you're upset about it, and a lot of times rightfully so. But it's not unheard of. But for some reason, when anything President Trump did, even if there was historical basis for it, people were like, "Oh my gosh, really?"
Yeah, and all the presidents do it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Biden's coming in already promising immediately 10 executive orders
Right off the bat.
reversing
Yep.
President Donald Trump and no criticism.
Yep.
See, my problem is this. I have no problem admitting that President Trump, and you heard me say this, Kathy, all the time, get him off Twitter. You know, don't let him do the things that he does when it comes to the rhetoric.
Now, not ban him.
No, I didn't say ban him.
Yeah,
I
but I want to make sure we clear this.
No. I'm
clear
talking
this
about,
up. You were never
I'm
like
talking
ban him.
about
You
his
just didn't
people.
like his style.
Right. I'm telling his people to get him off of
that's
Twitter.
Okay. Yeah.
Not Twitter ban him. No. But no, it's
Which they have.
Well, yeah, which I think is hilarious, and again, the double-edged sword is on its way. But so what's interesting is, or they're going to show their face, which they're doing, by the way.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that more because I'm anxious to see what happens with
the
this.
crazy
Yeah.
rioter who still has his Twitter account.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I guess
you
it's
saw that.
okay.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's still going on. So, but here's my issue. My issue is that the double standard that exists. And what's funny is that a Democrat or a liberal will go, "Oh, you're just a Trumper." No, this has nothing to do with being a Trumper. What this has to do with is a double standard. Yeah. If you're going to treat if you're going to treat one way, treat them all that way. And jumping Joe Biden hasn't been at all eloquent. He has been just as aggressive and just as mouthy as Trump was. And so give me a break here. The guy's going to come in, do a bunch of reversals, which again, if you'd have left Trump alone on it, which again is normal for a president to do, then I'd be cool with this. Now, we have anything to say. That's right. But he says it, and all of a sudden he's Man of the Year for People magazine now, which, by the way, is not a real thing. I'm just saying.
No, it was Time magazine that he and
but that was
Harris were Person of the Year.
That was before this. Here's the big one. This is the one that I think is laughable. We're going to continue to see more and more of this. So pay attention. Two things. One, the Los Angeles Times has released a huge article titled that Kamala Harris and California are going to become the trendsetters for the nation.
Oh.
And all policy will now, and there's even a quote from previous governors.
And wait, did we just hear that you couldn't cremate a certain amount of bodies in California and they're having to lift that ban? There's a ban like that?
There's a ban like that. Yeah, go figure that out. But here's what's
But
interesting.
we can keep the brush in and have forest fires that threaten and kill and take people's homes away every year. Okay.
Well, and this is where the rub is, right? So we've had a couple governors come out with that article that said that we're finally going to get this country back on track and follow the innovation and follow the good policies of California to get this nation back on track. And then, of course, you start to wonder, well, let's see. You weren't paying your DPS officers and you weren't paying your teachers. You've had forest fires that run completely out of control because of your lack of forestry management, which has been proven. Your taxes are some of the highest taxes next to New York in the country, and you govern like a buffoon. So, yeah, we definitely want to follow your trend, and we don't. And the article continued to come out and say that basically nobody's ever seen a vice president have such a prominent role in the president.
Because they are starting her campaign right now for president in 2024.
Well, and prepping her to get ready to be president. I'm telling you, there's something in the works here. Just watch it. I'm telling you. So anyways, so that's number one. Number two is the recent quote coming out of Joe Biden's group on immigration. Don't know if you heard, there's a caravan heading this way.
Yes.
The first 2021
Yes.
caravan's coming
Yes.
this way.
And this is something that, President Trump drew attention to, several years ago, but that this happens.
So
Hence
here's
the reason for more border security.
right. So here's what's funny, right? What's funny is that Biden and Harris have both said, well, once you get to the border, just hold on. You can't just cross over just yet, because basically I need to do an executive order or we need to pass a law that doesn't make it illegal for you to come over. Now, hold on a minute. That's not what you ran on. You ran on, come on over. We're going to open up the gates. And now they're pushing the caravan back. Do you think there's been any criticism on that? Absolutely not, which I think is interesting. So talking out of one side of your mouth
Again,
to the other for politics.
Oh, the hypocrisy is deafening, JP.
Yeah. And then, of course, Ann Guzman said that's why everybody's escaping California. And let's be more specific. Between July 2019 and July 2020, 135,600 Californians have exited the state of California.
Ton
a lot of
have
them
moved
coming
here.
to Texas.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
It was interesting, working and being part of the Victory 2020 leadership for the GOP. So many people I met, over the last, 6 to 9 months, JP, I would say the majority of them were the new people that I met were from California, with a sprinkling of them from New York. So I'm just saying, and these are people who possibly, a couple of them even had said, hey, and also from knocking on doors and identifying voters who would vote for Trump and the rest of our GOP ticket. These are people who would say, I don't necessarily identify myself as a Republican, but all I know is when I moved to Texas, I feel like I hit the jackpot. I am living in a home, and they would tell you, they would say, like, the home I live in right now costs this much money, and the home I lived in California, and some people would pull out their phone and be like, this is a picture of my house. And they were paying like $2 million for a home you can get for like $175,000 here in Texas. They literally feel like they've won the lottery moving to Texas. And then we're like, well, that's why it's important that you keep the conservatives in place, because we don't have a state income tax, because we are more business friendly. We are more taxpayer friendly. So you've got to keep working on that. And that being said, we've got local elections coming up all across the state of Texas here in May. So make sure you go and you do your research on school board, mayoral candidates, if your mayor's up, races up this time around, and city council members, because they are making decisions for you at the absolute local everyday level.
Well, and
vote.
So here's the thing: not only pay attention to your local level, but get engaged with your local level. Go beyond the vote, and because that's what's going to take to keep this government running straight, and for you who may not be involved to understand how this whole thing really works. And if you're not careful, you can get the language going in a certain way, and it seems like everything the other party says is wrong, and everything the one other party says is right. And it's not that case. And it's funny how it's that the left is able to control the language right now in this country across the
happened
board.
for a long time.
Well, yeah, but it's gotten way bad.
Oh, it's horrible
it's
now.
Amped
Yeah.
up because of social media, and people need to understand that. And if they don't understand that, then we're going to pay the price. And because it's coming. I mean, look at what social media has done. Twitter has yet to ban a lot of hate speech and a lot of violence promoting groups on Twitter still. But yet we're going to get rid of the president.
We're getting rid of President Trump.
You know, and then how many of us envisioned that Parler would be banned basically from the world?
Yeah, that it's just taken down.
Yeah, I mean, like, how does that happen? That's like a nightmare on what's the movie you like to watch on Christmas Eve or Day or New Year's Eve or Day? Twilight Zone.
Oh, the Twilight Zone. Oh, on New Year's Day, Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I'm sitting here drawing a blank.
Like, what is that?
But think about
I'm
that
like,
for a minute.
Elf? Christmas Story? No.
We're in a Twilight Zone right
yeah.
now.
Yep.
Who would have thought Parler could have ever been brought down, for goodness sakes? Because Twitter decided, because Google decided, because Amazon decided, because Apple decided.
And it should be, the people decide. But again, and everybody's taking for granted or taking advantage of the fact that they're privately owned companies. And we get that. You and I recognize that. But then at some point, as conservatives, do we have to stand up and say, I'm not ordering through Amazon again? It may be inconvenient, but I'm going to go and I'm just going to, so it's a balance. Google, we've talked about this. The majority of us who are still, working jobs, you've got a G drive somewhere. So you got to have that Google email, that Gmail account.
Well, the other option is Microsoft Suite, which I think is also an interesting conundrum.
Well, then you look at Bill Gates and his
That's
whole shebang. So,
we are being wiped off the face of the earth.
Get
involved. Be engaged.
Yeah, and please do get involved. And if you're one of those, like we are, they're frustrated out there. Look right now, if you've got your legislative session going on right now, and we do in the great state of Texas, and we only meet every 6 months, every other year, it's very important that you let your voice be heard. Get bill alerts. If you're concerned about property taxes or about pro-life issues or, gun rights, any of that kind of stuff, then get on a bill alert site, have alerts sent to you about what bills are coming up. And if it's a bad bill, fight against it. If it's a good bill, fight in favor of it. So you can do things right now. Voter integrity and ballot integrity, huge. And I know a ton of people who are going to Austin talking about that, who are writing their state senators and state reps. Let your voice be heard where it can be heard right now. So if you're one of those that's frustrated and upset, pick yourself up, get involved in your local races, your municipal races, and go talk to your legislators. You've got to.
Absolutely, you've got to. And then, of course, the president will make 100 pardons before he leaves office.
Is Lil Wayne one of those?
Is who?
Lil Wayne, the rapper.
I know
I
I think that he's on that list. Of course, the advice has been for President Trump.
And again, this is a normal thing that people do.
Right, not to pardon
or the
himself.
Presidents do.
And he is not on the list. There's not been a preparation for a presidential pardon for the president. Because that rumor has been out there, but that is not happening at this point as well. And of course, the itinerary is from to work full-time on Tuesday, and then he will board Marine One, get over to Air Force One because he's still the president,
right.
Take Air Force One down to Palm Beach, and start preparing for retirement. And so,
I'm sure he's not retiring. I'm sure he'll do something
from the White House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Transition into what his next step is.
Well, his next step
I'm anxious to see what it is.
Well, it's been ongoing. I mean, his next step is his companies. But what I'm saying is, from the White House, he will retire.
And the banks are doing. Like, some of the banks have dropped his business accounts and personal accounts. I mean, it's like an all-out assault. If this would have been Barack Obama that this happened to, the world, the media would be up in arms. Why is the media just sitting back and going, "Oh well, good," Well, it's like it's some mean girl convention.
Again,
or something.
my thing is the double standard. That's my thing.
Exactly.
Barack Obama and his hideous approach to immigration by the standards of leftists, not criticized, but when President Trump does the exact same thing, it's an all-out war.
Knock him out.
When Schumer and Pelosi are begging for the wall, and then Trump gives them the wall, which, by the way, other presidents had already started building the wall. I was going to say
this was
Democrats
approved under
and
Barack
Republicans.
Obama. Nancy Pelosi even voted in favor of it back then.
And I think, again, because it was Donald Trump, everything changed.
It's just so,
And
just so crazy.
It's a lot of fun out there. And then, of course, Gail said, I didn't know California exported homeless people. Absolutely. That was a thing. We did a big old show on it.
Yeah, we did.
Because they do. They put them in trains and send them out the door.
Yeah.
But they export their homeless. I didn't know that was a thing either.
To nearby states and even from one city to another. Sometimes they'll take, because remember when we talked about this, didn't we have somebody on who had lived there or something? Anyways, they'll, if there's too many in one city, then they'll bus them to another city.
That is correct.
And
And San Francisco
was
was doing that.
What about if these are some of our vets or some of these people have mental health issues? Why aren't you helping them?
Right.
And you know what? Maybe they just need medication or they just need, a hand up just for a couple of months, and then they're working tax-paying citizens.
Well, and Eric Verdugo said, when someone is portrayed as evil, it's easy to justify not ringing the bell. And he's absolutely right. And that's where we're going with all of this. And so,
interesting.
All I can tell you is buckle up, get ready to go.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Because it's going to be a bumpy ride, baby Jesus. Where'd that come from? Name the movie. Name
Baby
the movie.
Jesus is Talladega Nights.
Well, then that's where it came from. That's where it came
help
from.
me, baby Jesus. Help me, Tom Cruise. Help me. Help me, Oprah
Help me.
Winfrey.
That was way funny.
Help me, baby Jesus.
Yeah. And so, interestingly enough, we're going to continue to see policy transform and change, which, again, I don't know that it's all bad. Don't know that it's all good. I just want to make sure that everybody is treated the same. And that just doesn't seem to be a thing.
Well, it's been the whole entire, actually, ever since President Trump won back in November of 2016, it was an all-out war, and it didn't matter that things were done differently for Bill Clinton or for George W. Bush or for Barack Obama. It was an all-out war, and it's interesting. Nancy Pelosi has allowed President Trump to take up so much rent space in her head, and I don't think that's going to stop. Trump will find a way to have his voice heard. He's got 75 million people who are counting on that. Where there's a will, there's a way, and we the people will not be silenced. And I'm telling you, Nancy Pelosi, I think she's going to wish he was back in the White House, because guess what? At least he had some constraints as president. I'm anxious to see what happens. I'm gonna kick back with some popcorn and see what happens while I'm working on local races and all that kind of good stuff. I'll tell you,
I used to sit back.
Oh, Gail's right. His Biden tax proposal, and I haven't even read the whole thing, but I've heard it's ridiculous. There's mask mandates, like, you go out and by yourself. If I'm walking my dog in the neighborhood by myself, you have to wear a mask. Please.
So I used to sit down with a big old bucket of popcorn and watch me some Betty White.
Love her.
And so here we go. She's turned 99 years old and looks fantastic. Sounds fantastic. She was born January 17th, 1922. Can you imagine being 18 years of age and living through World War II?
Everything, you look at what she has, and we're watching the series The Crown right now, and so I think of people who are in their 90s, like the Queen is, and Prince Philip, and I look at Betty White, and people who are, if you're almost 100 years old, you've seen it all. You have literally seen such transformation in the world. You've seen some of the most incredible inventions, innovations. Can't imagine what all you've seen.
Well, I mean,
and she's just always been hilarious. Every role she's ever played, she's phenomenal in.
First and foremost, she's a pioneer in the industry. Seen as a
for
pioneer
women, absolutely.
In the industry.
Absolutely.
Author, television host, comedian, actress, you name it, she's done it all.
Yeah, she's done some of the biggest, most popular shows. The Mary Tyler Moore show, she was phenomenal on that. Yes. Loved her in that. And to me, she just hasn't aged. She kind of has the same hairstyle and just looks the same, just has that same. And she attributes it. She said, make a nightly appointment with Dr. Johnny Walker is what she tells, and try not to die. That's been one of her famous quotes out there. She was also in The Golden Girls, which was a hugely popular show, and she was just great in that. Little known fact, she was also in what soap opera?
Young and the Restless. As the World Turns.
Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, the B&B.
She was the mother of Pam and then Stephanie Forrester, and she was on B&B for a while and killed it on B&B. So
there
Bold
you
and
have
Beautiful.
it.
So yeah, just love her.
So she has the longest television career of any entertainer that's out there in
yeah,
the world right now.
yeah, I guess she would.
She spans for more than 80 years of filmography, if you can believe that. Over 45 movies, over 45 television shows. She has seen it from black and white all the way to her appearance in Toy Story 4 and The Lorax. So can you imagine going from black and white and these very basic cameras and systems to the extremely digital world of Toy Story 4 and The Lorax? What's funny is I think one of her most famous lines comes out of Lake Placid in 1999. I mean, you got to go back and watch that movie, but she was hilarious.
Oh,
and it was a very short role in that movie. But just to name
Fred said
few,
Betty White for president 2024. Okay.
Yeah, amen.
Okay.
Amen.
She was a big animal advocate too. She said, what did she say? That they didn't lie and they didn't criticize.
Right.
You know, she's so right about that.
So some of the things you might pick up and want to catch: Eunice with Carol Burnett in that in 1992.
Oh my gosh! And she was on the Carol Burnett show too.
Yes.
Loved her.
If you get a chance, Annie's Point. That was a 2005 movie, and that featured Betty White. And so if you get a chance, you might want to grab that one. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, they say Carol Burnett. I just read this. Carol Burnett and Betty White are still friends to this day, which I love that. Gosh,
yes.
How fun would it be to hang out with those two and have a martini?
Oh, no
my gosh.
kidding. Betty White in The First Lady of Television. And that's a great little documentary if you get a chance to sit down with your kids and let them see who Betty White was. Of course, the Golden Girls were amazing.
Oh, Hot in Cleveland. Now, I never watched that show, but that was with Valerie Bertinelli. One of your crushes.
One of my crushes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Also, Vanished in 1971.
Yeah, she just
Betty White.
So many. Yeah.
And so these are just some of the ones that I've watched that I would highlight that if you get a chance, go out there and catch a Betty White movie.
Yeah, she was just great. Speaking of birthdays, we have a special birthday that we would like to celebrate with you, the crew.
We do.
Dr. Rebecca Good
It is
has
Dr.
a
B.
birthday
Good's
today.
birthday.
So happy birthday to you, Dr.
Happy
Good.
birthday to you.
If we sing the whole song, I don't know if we have the rights to that. Isn't Happy Birthday like one of those off-limit songs?
We could do it this
But
way.
we love you. God bless
We
you.
do it this way.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Happy
yeah,
birthday
like-
to you. Happy birthday.
Change up the rhythm of it.
To
To
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
To
Dr.
you.
Good. Happy birthday to you. There you go. So if we get caught for
Happy
that one, who
birthday,
knows?
Dr. Good.
Also interesting tidbit. Betty White married once, right? Or not married, I'm sorry, married 3 times, but all the men had passed away in her life. She was married first to Dick Barker in 1945. He passed away in 1945. Lane Allen from 1947 to 1949, and then married Alan Luden in 1963, and he passed away in 1981. She never had any children of her own, but she has 3.
I didn't know that.
She has 3 stepchildren from Luden, and then and that's it. And did not remarry after Alan Luden. And so just some interesting tidbits about Betty White.
Just what a great lady. What a class act.
And hilarious. One of my other favorite commercials is her in the Snickers commercial.
Oh, that was not too. Wasn't that during a Super Bowl a couple of years ago?
Yeah, that was way
That's
funny.
right. Yeah, she's just yeah. And I love how she's been able to adapt and morph with the times. Like she gets the more raw, raunchier. Not that necessarily I'm a big fan of that, but she gets that that's more the humor of today. And boy, she's so talented. She just went with the flow. Didn't miss a beat.
Absolutely. And so some of the things you might want to try to catch of Betty White's recommended. The Golden Girls, if you can. The Pet Set, also very hilarious if you get a chance. There's a 50th anniversary coming around on that.
Which one?
Pet Set.
Oh, I don't think I ever knew about that one.
Of course, Hot in Cleveland,
Yep.
which went from 2010 to 2015. Life with Elizabeth. That was her very first television series.
What was?
Life with Elizabeth.
Oh, I need to go back and try to catch that.
And
on a streaming service.
Let's see. Also, some of the other things that are kind of fun. You can catch most of this on Netflix. They say The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Boston Legal. So if you get a chance, get out there. Also, Carl Rayner had hosted a documentary with her as well.
There you
So,
go.
Betty White, happy birthday.
Happy
from
birthday.
JP,
And Dr.
Kathy,
Good, happy
and the crew.
birthday.
And Dr. Good, may you live a long and illustrious life like
She
Betty
will.
Betty White.
She takes
Not
such good
wife.
care of herself.
She does.
Dr. Good's the ultimate at immune system and all that kind of good stuff. She had something on Facebook a while back. She fixed. I didn't know this was a thing, but I'd love to have a recipe. Cauliflower steak.
Yeah.
And it was like big things of
Oh, it's
cauliflower
way
sliced.
good.
It looked really good.
It's way good.
You've tried it. Probably
I've made it
because
for
your
my dad. I've made it for my dad.
I'd love a recipe. I'd love a
Yeah,
recipe.
no, it's way
Would
good.
love it.
So, what are our top headlines for today?
Oh, look,
right?
Fred says Netflix and HBO Max will have really high ratings on the 20th. How many normal people are going to watch? I'm not watching it. Are you watching
the
it?
inauguration?
And and it's no disrespect.
Well-
It's just, I didn't watch it when Bill Clinton got sworn in. I didn't watch it when Barack Obama got sworn
And
in.
let's go to that for a minute, shall we? So, Kathy and I both have been together at an
At
inauguration.
inaugurations. We've been in the VIP section, sitting right out there. Presidential inaugurations are an amazing thing.
And so it's not that we don't participate. So we do. But so it is interesting. This one's going to be a Zoom virtual.
Well, it's going to be inside, and I think less than 100
No, he's doing
people.
it outside. No.
So it is? Oh, no,
Joe
I heard-
Biden is
I
going to
heard-
show the world that.
Oh, I heard it was
It
was
is
inside
outside.
because of coronavirus.
Nope, it is outside.
Interesting.
Yes, it is outside, and his thing is I'm going to show the world that you're not going to stop me from going out and being normal and regular with the January 6th riots that took place. They have 25,000 National Guardsmen, and they're bringing more. Bringing more.
Hey, Kid Rock turned 50 the same day that Betty White turned 99.
Oh, good for Kid.
I like Kid Rock.
Okay, there you go. So, bottom line is the inauguration is going to look very different. I am going to watch the inauguration because I want to see what that different looks like, and how they're going to set this up. I mean, are they going to?
I know Lady Gaga is singing the national anthem.
Oh, is she? Well,
Yeah.
See, I got to watch that. I love Lady Gaga. Regardless,
I know she's Libby Lib, but I took my daughter to see her in concert when when my daughter turned 18, and it was one of the best concerts that we've been to.
I'm going to watch it. First of all, I was told a long time ago by a graduate from West Point who had been an office holder and was in his late 70s, and he said, John, here's the thing. He said, don't ever stop understanding your opponent. He goes, my library has as many books about Democrats and leftists.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Franklin P. Adams. Jerry Madden's dad.
I was going to
by
say
the way.
Jerry
Yeah.
Madden. Yep.
And so he was my first impression when I was 18 and running for office. And so I have as many Democrat leftist books in my library as I do conservative Republican style books. And so I will watch I will stomach it, and I will watch the inauguration because I am curious as to, again, how they're going to format, set it up.
You'll
all
report
of
on
it.
that Friday.
I will report on that Friday.
But I am curious to the crew. Hop on our feed, and just yes or no. Yes, I'm watching. No, I'm not. I'm just curious. Now actually, isn't it? It's during the day.
Correct.
So I mean, a lot of people are going to be working. Will you tune it? Will you have your phone propped up while you're working, watching it, or are you just going to, And again, it's not. So he's going to be president. I've accepted. I know God has a plan. That's where I gain my comfort and strength from. I just, what I've done to help not feed negative into my mind, and get sucked into all of the vortex of all of the just the anger and sadness that I see on social media. I'm like, okay, so if Biden's going to be president for the next 4 years, there's other things I can do as far as, volunteering and working for government, which you and I have discussed. So I'm not going to let a Joe Biden presidency ruin my personal life and my ability to come in here and have a good time with you guys and with the crew and enjoy my family and enjoy my pet and enjoy my friends. I'm just not going to let a Joe Biden presidency suck the life out of me. Now, am I going to fight against, any of those kind of bad policies? Yeah, I'll do what I can do on the local level or the state level or the federal level. I'll let, Congressman Van Taylor know what I think. I don't know. I mean, because you and I are both very, beyond involved in politics.
Sure.
Together, the two of us have, probably 65 years, 65, close to 70 years combined political experience. But I haven't seen you let yourself go down that emotional, no. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm mad.
I just got to weather it.
Yeah.
It's just time to weather this and then get a good candidate for 4 years
from
now,
the bejeebers out
and
of
go
them.
from there, and then make sure we take care of our state.
Yeah. Yes.
Yoram Solomon, and he's on the feed, and I was
love Yoram.
Well,
hey.
I was going to quote him.
Yep.
He was on Dr. Good's feed on Sunday on the
right.
Ask Dr. Be Good show, and Dr. Good, one of the things that she talked about in that show Sunday was the inauguration and who's going to be watching it and what do you watch it from which perspective.
Right.
And Yoram said, she had said, get involved, be engaged. And he had said, first be involved and engaged at your local level.
Yes.
Especially your school boards, councils, and things like that.
And you're talking the school board, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would definitely recommend the same thing that Yoram has suggested, that get involved, that your local is going to impact you more. And so take care of your local, take care of your state, then worry about the feds. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it's just get ready for the 4 years is all I can say.
Right.
And that's what I'm all about. Get ready for the next 4 years.
And it's kind of mixed it's mixed on the feed. Like Marguerite said, she's kind of undecided right now. And I've got a lot of friends who are undecided. I've got some friends who are like, I'm probably going to watch it and just not tell anybody I watched it. Well, but I'm sure there'll be highlights. You won't be able to miss highlights coming through on your phone.
Well, but I mean, again, no. I mean, this is opposition research. You got to watch. You got to take a stomach pill. And then just sit and stomach it.
I will listen to you on Friday.
I know. Nathan Wynn says it'll be interesting to see how long it is before we are in a conflict with a foreign entity. Now, see, you say that, Nathan, but Joe Biden is going to give everything to everybody. I mean, he's already going to jump in and do an executive order to put us back into Kyoto.
I think the people who...
So I don't think we'll have one at all.
I think the people who in the countries that Trump put in their place, rightfully so. Here's the thing. We will be vulnerable because... of being so wishy-washy and so, whatever you guys want, it's all good. Well, Obama, he went and did like what I considered like an apology tour to all of these, heads of country and heads of state from, all these other countries, and kind of like, oh, bad Americans, we're so sorry. I was like, how dare you?
Right.
What was it? Reagan always said, strength through fear, or there was some, I can't remember the exact quote, but, a healthy amount of fear for the fact that, hey, if you step foot on American soil, if you come and try to attack Americans, you got another thing coming. And that's where I don't understand giving everything to everybody else. And we've got so many people to take care of ourselves.
So going back one even further, and Fred makes a good point, and think about it, not one North Korean missile test either. Yeah, welcome back to that, because Joe Biden's going to be soft on North Korea. I can promise you that Kim Jong-un was probably scared of President Trump because he knew that President Trump wouldn't jack with him.
I think he also liked the celebrity of President Trump.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because he's Kim Jong-un, he's that kind of, he gloms on to whoever the cool person is and whoever has lots of, fans and all this kind of stuff, so to speak.
Right.
I think he was fascinated with a President Trump. I think with a Joe Biden, we're a sitting duck.
Oh, we are a sitting duck. There's no doubt about that. So here's what we have. What we have is getting ready for the next 4 years for us. Deal with what's being dealt and then get ready. And let's put together a viable, strong candidate for the next presidential election. I can tell you this, that we've got to continue to preach the fact that nonviolence protesting has got to be the way it's got to be done if we're going to do it. We adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. Martin Luther King. Yeah. And as we celebrate his birthday today, and
Martin Luther King Day, yeah.
I mean, I say birthday, Martin Luther King Day. My apologies. Yeah. But what would Martin Luther King say to groups like BLM today or Antifa?
Let me ask you this. When you think back in history and as far as equal rights go for African Americans, do you not think that MLK, that he was, Martin Luther King Jr., that he was not, like to me, he comes to mind. I think of what he did. Now, Rosa Parks, there's other people who individually come to mind. for certain acts, but as far as a movement, he made such a huge difference. But he did it the right way. People were dressed in their Sunday best. They were holding Bibles. They were singing hymns.
Well, remember now,
that makes you listen.
We have a dear friend of ours who's a Democrat.
Yep.
Up in Minnesota.
Yep.
Who was extremely involved. First black woman in the Minnesota St. Paul Police Department to become a peace officer, amongst incredible odds. Then became not only a sergeant, but an assistant chief, the chief, but also became the superintendent for the police, became a council member, and then became the director of law enforcement for the state of Minnesota, and marched with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Marched with him, bussed down from Minnesota to the South to march with him. And I promise you, if people were to ask today, what would Martin Luther King Jr. say? There's no second guessing. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? That's exactly what the man would say.
Yes.
I mean...
And that rings true today.
Absolutely. He would be heartbroken at the violence at the Capitol. He would be heartbroken at the violence in Minnesota. Heartbroken at the violence in Oregon.
Yeah.
Because this is what he said, and I'm going to repeat this quote, and I'm going to finish it. We adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. We will try to persuade with our words, but if our words fail, we will try to persuade with our acts. I mean, that doesn't say take up arms. If they're not going to listen to us, then let's shoot them and knife them.
Or scream venomous, vulgar words and spit on them, Well, I mean, look at that. I mean, let's think about this. He was the youngest person, this was back when he received it at the time, to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. He was only, and it was because of his nonviolence that he was recognized, and he was only 35 years old. So at the young age of 35, he's recognized, the world over with a Nobel Peace Prize for his movement, which was the big mantra, nonviolence. And I'm not saying there was all sunshine and roses. When they were marching through the streets, they're getting pelted with rotten eggs and tomatoes and things of that
fire
nature.
Hoses.
And the whole time,
German shepherds.
The whole time, if they started getting pelted, they sang another church hymn, and that just gives me chills. His belief was rooted in Christ, our Savior, first and foremost. And that is what led him in his endeavors. And to this day, that's the reason why when it's MLK Day, we all celebrate him.
Well, and again...
And more so today now than we have in years past.
And if you go back to his father and granddaddy, Alfred King, and Martin Luther King Sr., everything was embedded in God. And in faith,
everything,
and in love. And that's how the man and his family led. In fact, it's interesting. His niece goes on to say that my uncle would always say this: nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love. Love is not emotional bash. It is not empty sentimentalism. It is the active outpouring of one's whole being into the being of another.
Wow.
Where's that at today?
Yeah. Yeah, please, somebody help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we would continue to adopt what we know and what we've learned and what is effective, we could change the world. And again, injustice anywhere has to be met with justice everywhere.
That quote is phenomenal. JP, I didn't realize this until I just pulled up this article on him. He is the only, and I guess I never thought about this, but it's true. He's the only non-president to have a national holiday in his name. And it was in 1983 that President Ronald Reagan signed a bill that would establish a nationally observed holiday in remembrance of King. So he is the only non-president to receive such an honor.
And well deserved.
And well deserved.
Well deserved.
Well deserved.
I'm going to leave my thoughts with this quote because I love Martin Luther King's quotes.
Yeah.
I have decided to stick with love, would be what my uncle would famously say. Hate is too great a burden to bear.
Mm. Amen.
Amen to that. I'll tell you what. With that being said, I know the music is beginning to play in my ears because it's time for us to take us out for the day. But please reflect on the words of MLK. Reflect on the fact that hate is too great a burden to bear and release your heart. You want to live long. Betty White said, laugh a lot.
Yeah.
And don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, she lived to be 99.
She's still living.
Right.
We'll be
she's gotta
celebrating
go
100
on.
next year.
That's right. We'll see you Wednesday. We've got
We love
Faye
ya.
Curtis coming on.
Yay! We love Faye.
Local
Author.
author, that's right. Published her book. She's going to be talking
Faye
about her
Curtis.
book. Maybe we can convince her to autograph a book and give it away to one of the crew members.
That would be awesome. She's got a conference coming up.
I gotta go sign up for that, by the way, because I'm going.
I want to go to that too.
So, we've got Faye Curtis coming up. We got Dr. Be Good coming up on Wednesday to talk to us about public education. Probably going to have our legislative talk that day.
Yep.
So we'll chat with her about that.
We have James Seller.
We have James Sellers on Wednesday as well. And an interesting take on that. Of course, you remember that James Sellers owns
Sightmark.
Sightmark. I was going to call it Sellers Mark. Sightmark, but he got COVID-19.
Oh, interesting.
And it hit him pretty good. And so we're going to talk about his
experience
with COVID-19.
Can he talk to us about the NRA moving to Texas?
Well, we can talk to him about that too. But also talking about how he managed his company. He doesn't have a small company, folks. He's got a big company.
Yeah, big old company.
So how did you manage that through that? Was anybody else exposed? How do you move forward? So we'll talk to James Sellers on Wednesday as well. So have a great day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.